Hey, and welcome to the Sit Down with Suzanne podcast. I am your girl, Suzanne, also known as Positively Suzanne. Now, remember, this podcast was created with us in mind. It is a reminder that not only are we worthy, but we deserve the best versions of ourselves. So grab a cup of tea or your beverage of choice and sit back and relax and join me on this journey.
Hey there, positive people. This is your girl, Suzanne, and I am so excited to kick off this series. So I hope you have been listening. I released a little trailer, a little sneak peek of what was to come. I am going to be doing a series for the month of May on females. I mean, it didn't start out as females, so I don't want you guys thinking I left you out. But it was just really about female entrepreneurs who have left corporate America, have left the professional field and have gone out on their own and they're doing their thing. So I am so excited about who is going to kick off this series. It's none other than a family friend. So I'm just going to give you a little bio and I'm going to let her introduce herself. So her name is Miss Lorna Ellis. She is the owner of For You Bridal, and it is a prom and bridal store, which is, and I shouldn't just say bridal and prom because there's so many just formal, semi-formal dresses and things like that. They're located in Worcester, Massachusetts at 269 Lincoln Street in Worcester, Mass. And we're going to give you all the details. And when we're promoting the episode, we're going to let you know how you can contact them to get all your formal needs taken care of. So she opened this business in April 2019, right before that pandemic kicked off. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. They were originally located in the Midtown Mall in Worcester. And for those of you Worcester folks that are listening, you know that the Midtown Mall is undergoing a massive renovation. They relocated to 892 Main Street in January 2021. And the new location that I gave you, they are currently there now. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Miss Lorna Ellis. She is the first of our phenomenal series on female entrepreneurs who have stepped out of the workforce and are doing it on their own. And she has some longevity behind her. She started in April 2019. So Miss Lorna, welcome to the Sit Down with Suzanne podcast. We're so excited to have you. And, we're just excited about some knowledge and wisdom you're going to drop with us because folks are listening and they want to know. They're ready to make that big move, darling. So welcome to the Sit Down with Suzanne podcast.
Thank you.
All right, Miss Lorna. So just tell us a little bit about your journey. I just introduced you and talk about, what you currently do, but why don't you tell us a little bit about what you did before?
Well, I worked at Hanover Insurance for 20 years, doing commercial insurance, new business. And after 20 years and got redundant, I stayed home for 10 months and think of why am I not in my field, my passion that I love, that I started doing since I was 8 years old in Jamaica. And went to fashion design school in New York, Mayors Fashion Design School. And on the side, I did all my alteration with my co-workers. And then I went to Reliant Medical Group downtown in the Telegram and Gazette building. And I saw this store one day, For You Bridal, For You Prom. And I went in and spoke with the owner and she gave me some insight. I said, this is a dream that I always wanted to do. And I was bold enough to say, can I come there and you be a mentor to me? And I did that for 5 years, started doing alterations and she will call me. I use my few free times and after work to go there, meet customers and talk with them because I did textile and clothing. So it's a passion that I love. And she did agree that she will show me. And one thing she said was, it is a boring job. I said, don't worry about that part. I will make it interesting for me. And in 2019, she had closed for a few months, and I went to her and I said, what's going on? And she said, I have few issues going on. I said, well, don't close the store. I will run it for you. Better yet, I will buy it from you. And she was like, you will buy it? I said, yes. And that's where everything took off in 2019, April 2019. I purchased the store from her.
Oh my goodness, that's fantastic. So wait, you were in insurance for 20 years and, you were doing your little side hustle on the side, doing your alterations and things for family and friends. We all got a little side hustle, right? And, that was really bold though, to just say, hey, let me just come down here and, work with you just to I'm not fully doing it, but just doing something just to keep that passion alive. And that's fantastic. So when she closed it and you found out that, she was having issues and potentially closing it, what was it that just made you make that leap? Because you could have went to somebody else and did it on the side also, but what made you make that leap that, what, I want to dive into this full time?
Well, I realized that my granddaughter starting to like fashion. And I said to myself, this would be a good thing that, grandma can work with her granddaughter to fulfill her dreams. So I said to her, if grandma purchases a store, will you take it over later on, seeing that you love fashion also? And she said, yes. So, and I'm like, okay, I will have a sidekick to do this. So it was then there, I said, okay, I told my husband, I said, I'm not going back to work. I'm not looking for a job. I went to mass hire because when you're on unemployment, they require you to go there. And the first thing I went in and they asked me what I want to do. I said, I want to own my own business. And the person said, wow. But in Worcester, I said, yes. And I would like to get any training or any help that to transition me in how to do it, because I didn't do a class in owning a business. I didn't do anything. This is just something that was in my thought, in my brain, that I think I could do. And they guide me, and I sit down with, like two person. I think a guy name was Tom, and we talk, and I write up a paperwork and says, this is what I'm going to do. He's like, you are serious? I said, I am dead serious.
All right now.
I took him over to the store and I said, on your lunchtime, walk over to the store because I will be there. And he came over to the store and he said, in the Midtown Mall, and he said, this is what you're going to do? I said, yes. And I'm thinking of buying it. What do you think? He said, you know what? I have met you a couple of weeks, and to how you explain certain things, I don't doubt that you can do this. And from there, from a different prospect of hearing somebody who is a stranger, because I have family member who always say, Lorna, you got this. You got this. And, you're like something, suppose it doesn't work. And I tell myself, no, this will work because I don't have plan B. I am always going to stick with plan A.
All right.
I listened to Steve Harvey, and Steve Harvey said, you don't need plan B. Keep plan A because you will always go back to plan A. That means it will work.
All right. All right. I do enjoy Steve Harvey. He drops some wisdom all the time. I like his little clips. They're really great motivation. That's fantastic. A couple of things you mentioned, you mentioned that you asked her to be a mentor. And I think that is so important, especially when you're trying to dive into something that you hadn't done, even though it's been a dream and a passion of yours for a while. Just mentorship, asking someone to mentor, what was that like? Being mentored?
And because I have a positive outcome on a lot of things, I go in there, I ask the question, and the resources that I got through the Mass Aya was very good. And I could go there and call and sit, and when the person is not in any meeting, he will come, I will go to his office, and then we will talk. And just talking and, just giving you more, concrete confirmation that, yes, this is good and I'm going to go for it.
All right. That's wonderful. All right. Let's dive back a little. You were in insurance for 20 years. So clearly, I know you said that it got redundant, but clearly you liked something. What was it about the previous profession that you liked?
Well, I used to be a trainer and training all the new employees that come into the commercial area. So I think it's maybe more like a people person, and in the training part of it, just to sit down and talk with them and guide them. So that was the aspect of, doing everything. And then after, for the 5 years before I transitioned out, I went into the technical part of it, doing some program, doing paradox that behind the scene when the computer go down, I reprogram and stuff. And I'm like, this work is not for me anymore. At that point, and I'm like, I think I want to do my passion that I always say I want to do. At 4 years old, my aunt in Jamaica, she used to custom make both myself and my sister clothes. We always go to weddings because we were the 2 girls alone and all the boys. So she had a dress shop. So she said one day, I just told her, I don't want to come to your store and sit and wait anymore. I'm going to learn to make my own clothes. And she reminded me, you were 4 years old when you said that. So when she migrated to the US and lived in Hartford, Connecticut, and I migrated here in 1983, I joined up with her. I live in Worcester. Every weekend, I will take my Greyhound bus or my Peter Pan bus to Hartford and go there, and I will help her sew. And for 20 years, I did that. Not every weekend, but I did it for 20 years.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's these passions that we have when we're little, at 4 years old, and, to just remember that. But I think it's great that, you had somebody who remembered that and reminded you, and just continue to feel that, feed that passion. So, fellow Yadi in the house, hey. All right. So, we talk about, a lot of my podcasts, it comes out about growing up in Jamaica, growing up with Jamaican parents. That's a whole nother story, but that's a whole nother podcast. So we're going to talk about this entrepreneurial journey. But what was the transition like, when you're used to a routine in your regular field, your previous profession, and then you're now working for yourself as an entrepreneur. What was that transition like? You had set hours here, you had to kind of create your own.
Yes, I had to create my own hours with a compliance with the store because it had its own hours. And I would have to, adjust some of my lifestyle just to accommodate that hours. And my husband is very patient, and his mom was a seamstress also. So he understands the long work being a seamstress, and when you finish supper and everything, you go back in the machine again. So it's not only, you do, your 11 to 6 hour, your 10 to 6 hour, your job is done. Once you are dealing with the public and you have alteration and something to do, when you close that door, you are still in the business working.
So you brought up a very good point, and that is actually something that I do want to highlight throughout, because there are a lot of folks right now that are doing the Great Resignation. There are a lot of folks right now that are turning their side hustle into their full-time hustle, that, are becoming entrepreneurs. And I think that, it's important that we highlight, the ups, the downs, the pros, the cons, the challenges that you face. I hear people sometimes, listen, I want to be my own boss because I don't nobody telling me what to do. But listen, there's nobody telling you what to do, but them bills will tell you what to do. Because if you are, you have to be as diligent, and, I would say even more diligent when you are working for yourself, because, hey, you could sleep all day. You could only work 1 hour a day. But if you want to be successful, if you want to be profitable, you absolutely are going to work harder than you ever worked before. So let's talk about that journey just a little bit, and, like the long hours. And I mean, it seems like you have a great support system, and that's fantastic. Your husband, family and friends that, encouraging you. But what would you say to those that are trying to become an entrepreneur and they don't have that support system?
Whatever it is, I think you need a backup. You need a backup that's, you're looking at, suppose you get sick. You need somebody who can fill in that position. They're not going to be able to do it 100% with you, but you can't be selfish for yourself. You really need somebody. My husband knows how to steam. He knows how to do beadwork. He knows how to do like something. I put him on the serger, and I'm like, you got to serge this for me. And, I need this color thread to change on the serger. So you have to have, in certain jobs, like my job, doing alterations and redesigning. So you need a backup no matter what it is. You cannot do it by yourself.
That is such an important point, honestly, that is something, because when you think about it, if you have a business and you're a one-man show, and depending on what you do, if you're out sick, I mean, do you shut the business down and lose, potential leads that you couldn't get? So no, that is actually very, very important. So entrepreneurs, I hope you're listening. I know a lot of y'all are hoping to jump out and do your own thing, but take it from somebody who's been there. You need a backup. Somebody, they're not going to be you. They're not going to do it as well as you, but somebody, we know you're unique and irreplaceable, but somebody who can handle and hold it down a little till you get back to 100%. So it seems like, you had a great support system. You had worked for a long time. You were ready to transition. You were done. Like in your mind, mentally, you were just okay. And it wasn't like you were trying to leave like a toxic work environment. You were just done. It had become mundane to you. What was the hurdle? What was the one thing that was holding you back, to say, hey, maybe I shouldn't do this? Or was there anything that was holding you back?
Well, the first thing what I thought about is that funding. Where do I go from there? Because you have to think of your overhead expense, your rent, your Wi-Fi, your phone, all those stuff. So you have to put everything on paper, and you got to think about it. So even when the pandemic came, you said, is this possible? But then you go back to your drawing board and you put down everything, and you figure it out. You figure it out. Okay. You figure it out. I met, someone, and I said to them, small businesses strive and make Worcester a better city, because they may close the door just for a little, but look at the bigger corporations that close their door and get all those people on unemployment, and small business really struggle. but because they know it is essential for the people who is coming in for the service. And so we try to work with the public to make sure that, we stay open.
Mm. Okay. Yeah. No, small businesses are vital. And, I even look at from when you started in 2019 to now, the plethora of small businesses that have just popped up all over. I mean, it certainly has revitalized Worcester. And I know that they're pushing for more small businesses in Worcester. So that's great. And you talk about, thinking about your overhead. So it's your input versus your output, because sometimes when you start, you're not bringing in that money, but you still got to put out that money. So especially for those who are looking to start a business, that you do need a physical location. A lot of times, you have the ability to do a business where you can start at your house but if you have to have a business like a restaurant or like a bridal shop, you have to think of your outputs, what's the rent, utilities, what's all these things that you need that you can't start, you have to make money to spend money sometimes, right? So
Yes.
I think that it's really good that, you said that. What was one of the biggest hurdles for you to overcome? All right, I think we lost her there. So let's see if we can get her back. All right. All right, there we are. Sometimes technology likes to do its own thing, but by the grace of God, here we are. All right, so you were answering, what was your biggest hurdle? You were going to let us know what was the biggest hurdle that you faced.
The biggest hurdle was, how long this pandemic is going to last and how will this work? Because we have never gone through a pandemic, so I didn't know what really was going on. I know that I saw that there was no customer coming in, and I said to my niece who helped me at the store, said something is going on, but I don't know what is going on. So when you go on the television and you hear about this disease coming around and stuff, we were like, I think I need to close and then see what's going on. And the first thing I did, I reached out to my landlord to say there's something going on. And I know, something big is coming down, but bear with me and we will work anything out. And he's such a nice person. He said, okay, Lorna, do what you have to do and we'll keep in touch. So when in March and we really closed the door, we talk and stuff. And he's like, well, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We will work something out. And Mr. Otter, he was very, very patient, very good to me.
Oh, that's awesome. Lorna, you have certainly been blessed. I know that, you certainly have challenges and all of that, but, from a good support system to a good landlord, that's fantastic. So, you started a business in 2019, right? You're going along doing your thing because who doesn't want a gown, right? And then this pandemic hit, right? Like, whoa.
Oh, yes.
That is something that because a lot of businesses, and not just small business, I know that there were so many small businesses that closed, and even big businesses that, supply chain was messed up. So many things was happening. So we're going through this pandemic, obviously you're living through it, work with the landlord, all of that. How did you communicate to your customers, that, hey, I am going to come back, or were you even able to connect with or communicate with them?
Yes, I did. Thank God for Facebook. So, and WhatsApp, we communicate with them. And, I said there's no church, no communion, no weddings or anything. So closing from March until June. And I put a pitch to some of my customers, previous customer, that planned to get married, and some had birthday parties coming up. And I said, you know what? I have a plan. What if you come to the store when it's okay and you get your gown, you go to the park and you take your pictures. You don't need a party. You will have the memory that you have your nice dress, you take your pictures, you can turn around and you make your album. I did that with a couple of brides also. And then I see that it was catching on. So I went down to Hanover Insurance and I said to the security guard, I have a couple customers who would like a nice lawn to take pictures. Can you allow them to do pictures if they come? They're not going to step in the grass. They will just stay there and take some pictures. And there's a water fountain there. They can come there and pose and take pictures. And it was, Lorna, I know you for a long time. And I know you're not flipping. You are serious. And I said, yes. And that is what I did. I found a place where they can go take pictures when Impact is, not available, because it might get a little crowded or, by the bridge, and it was redeveloping also. And I had a lot of customers, that went out and did that. So that was a good, turnaround for me to make it work.
That's wonderful. I mean, that is truly about pivoting, because a lot of the entrepreneurs that I talked to that went through that pandemic, they had to pivot. They had to think differently. I spoke with someone, or actually I was at an event the other day where someone spoke about they didn't do takeout as a restaurant owner, and they had to start takeout during COVID. So that's really, really cool that you were able to pivot and just think on your feet like that. What would you say was your biggest lesson learned, trying to pivot and, through the pandemic? What was the biggest lesson for you?
Don't set your mind in one direction. Try have an open mind, because life is unpredictable. Everything is unpredictable. And once you have a dream and you have a passion, there's always a turnaround.
Wow. That's a gem right there. That is truly something. And entrepreneurs, I know that y'all are listening, and I know that y'all are thinking of going out there to do your thing. But, listen to the words. This is someone who's been doing it, who is, unpredictable. Talk about a pandemic. That is something that it's just unfathomable to us that, we would live through something like that, and we're still feeling the effects of that. I have a question now. Now, if you had to do it again, like if you had to, 2020 didn't happen, all of that, and you were starting over, one thing that you would do differently?
Try to have enough money to buy my own building.
All right. Okay. I like that. All right. So, we talked about at the top of the hour, we had talked about, when you're an entrepreneur, how, you had to set hours, and, after the store closes, you're kind of behind the scenes still working. What are some of the habits? All right, let me rephrase it. What were some of the habits that you had to develop? And if you had to tell an entrepreneur some habits they need to develop, what are some habits you need to develop as an entrepreneur to be successful?
Well, you have to know your neighborhood. You have to reach out to other businesses also and tap into, what it is like, especially if you go into a new neighborhood. When I moved from downtown Worcester, there was nobody there to really even talk with. So I moved to 892 Main Street in the Main South neighborhood. I live in Main South neighborhood I'm still living there now. And I get to go to the Main South Association, and I meet a lovely lady by the name of Yvette Omega. And she came to the store actually on Main Street to introduce herself. And she told me about, their connection that they have in the community, and you can join it, and anything going on in the neighborhood, they could let you know. And that's where I started off. So at the association that's in the community is a plus, because they ask you about how is your funding, where you get, do you need any help with anything? How can I help? How can I, do anything to let you stay alive, since that the pandemic is still going on? So you need a community. Just don't go into the business and says, I can do this alone. You could never do it alone.
Awesome.
Never try to do it alone.
Awesome. You mentioned that a few times, about the support and having somebody. And, I think that's so important for communities. Like you said, know your community, just move in. You really do need to know the patterns, your customers, your clientele, things like that. Yeah, you are bringing customers from other places, but this is where you are located. So it's important that you understand the needs of that community. And, like you said, forming relationships with the folks in the community who knows the community best, right? So that was fantastic that you did that. Let me ask you a question. So obviously, when you opened your business, you had goals. Now, have your goals shifted from what it was when you started, when you just started in 2019 to now?
Well, my goal is to go a little bit further in the business and expand it. I do have an hairdresser that I link with. I have a makeup artist that I link with. I have an event planner that I link with, and so forth. So it's more like a one-stop shop, that if you come in and you need, something else, I have a business card, or I can direct you to say, go to this person, or I call them and says, I have a customer and they're looking for this. Even like the men's store on Allen Street, when some of the guys come looking for a men's suit in my store, I could call them up, I could Google it and says, go there, they will help you. Or I could tell them to go to Grafton Street. So you get all your resources, because mind you, some of the customers, or majority of the customers, they are not local. I have customers from Springfield. I have customers from New York. I had a customer this week from Oregon, and they were visiting college in Worcester. And she had a daughter, and she was interested into getting a prom dress. And I was able to sell her a prom dress and alter it for the next day when she is flying back.
Wow.
So you have to be on your P's and your Q's and your toes and everything to meet the customer need. You might be tired after, but the customer comes first.
I come like second. That. I like that. You got to meet their needs. You got to meet their needs. That you have a business. They need something from your business. You got to provide it to them, because there's competition. There's a lot of competition out there. So you have to offer that unique touch for them to want to come to you. So you have to offer something that differentiates you from them, and you seem like, you will do what you need to do to ensure that the customer is happy with the final product. So that's fantastic. How do you celebrate your wins when something is just fantastic? How do you celebrate? Like, yay, I did this.
Well, I have the customer name and telephone number, like on a special day, like yesterday, to some of the mothers. I reach out to them and I say, have a happy Mother's Day. Or, you get to know some of them personal. They will come and tell you like a journey about themselves. And you reach out to them and you say, have a good day. Hope you're having a good day. So I kind of, keep them up on WhatsApp or a text message every once in a while. Valentine come, I said, happy Valentine, I'm your Valentine, so that make their day. So you have to be a people person and know that you want to serve the community. You want to serve people. You can't be selfish. You can't be biased. You have to know that it is something that is in your mind, your soul, your heart, that you want to do it. So when you do it and the customer feel it, they feel it.
Okay. That's for them. And I think that's fantastic. How do you celebrate the win for you? How do you celebrate you, Lorna, the entrepreneur who has done it? How do you celebrate you? Our mental health is so important. And it's so important that, and especially in this time that we have peace. So how do you celebrate you when you have a win?
Well, I'm going to tell you like a secret. As a volunteer for the CASA program, that is a court-appointed kids through the court, I am a volunteer for over maybe 12, 13 years. You see the ins and outs of everything. You know when to chill. You know when to relax. You know when to look back and says, I need my time off.
Mm-hmm.
I watch my Lifetime on TV. I watch my Law and Order, and I do my downtime.
Okay.
My downtime. I don't drink. Never in my life. I don't smoke. Never in my life. So I celebrate myself and the journey that I know where I am from and where I am now. I know there's plenty of work that can be done, but I am just enjoying the moment now.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. However you celebrate you, that's okay. I love Law and Order. I love me some Lifetime. So that's fantastic. If I like to curl up with a cup of tea and do my thing. So
amen.
That
Amen.
is fantastic. All right. So we are wrapping it up. So just a couple more questions. I mean, we can talk forever, but, like I said, I really want entrepreneurs to really listen to this and say, okay, thinking of going out on my own. And these are the challenges that I know that I'm going to face. So let them hear from somebody who's done it. How do you personally define success, though?
When you see the growth,
Mm-hmm.
you see the growth in whatever you do, and you go on Instagram and you see some of the customers and they comment that they make, and they will let you know, you love your job, do you? I said, yes. He said, They will say it shows. It shows.
Wow.
So that is my best accomplishment, having a customer coming into the store. They don't know what they want. They don't know what colors. They don't know their body shape, what suit their body or anything. And you sit down personally and talk with them, explain certain things, and then I will, choose something for them, and they put it on and they, wow. I would never think I would ever put a style like this on my body, but it looked great. Oh. It looked great. And that is a good feeling to know you can sit down and talk with somebody, explain certain things, because we don't know. I don't know where I get this gift, but it's there.
Girl, from God. Ain't nobody but God. You know this. You got this gift from God. You got this. It is nothing. Favor ain't fair. God does what he does. That's fantastic. Well, it seems like you really have a real connection to people and the work that you do. And, it shows. So, congratulations on that. So
thank you.
Is it harder to work for someone else, or is it harder to work for yourself to be an entrepreneur?
It's harder to work for yourself because you want to make it work. You want to be out there. You want to do the marketing. You want to get the sales. You want to do everything. So, I think for us, we're always laid back and working for a corporation, but being in that corporation, you know that there's a lot of planning, a lot of things go on. But when you're there for yourself, you can see that it is not easy, but it's a job that you choose, that you want to do, that you want to step out of that corporation. And he said, I want to do this for myself. I want to do it for the next generation that comes after me. I want to do it for my family, my granddaughters that, is in fashion. You don't know what journey and what prediction that they're going to end. So you can say, come here, learn this business. If you don't like it, you can always walk away, but always remember that you come first in whatever you do. Wonderful. And put God first and put people in your hands that think about not only yourself, but what a person will feel. And that is what I do. Wonderful. I think about the person, would I want somebody to say they get their dress at my store just to make a sale and it doesn't look good on their body? No. I am going to tell you up front, this is not for you. I do. And, sometimes I said, and I will tell them, take a picture of what you think you want, look back on it, and then you let me know. Wonderful. Because 5-6 years down the road, you're going to say, this lady should have told me that this didn't look good on me. I'm going to tell you up front in a nice way that try something else, try a different color, and you will see. And since 2019, I will get a lot of texts and a lot of, emails and stuff that, you know what, Miss Lorna, you are so right. When I look back and I see the pictures, when I get my hair done, I get my makeup done, you are so right. I look so beautiful. I get so much comment. So that is a heartfelt, accomplishment just to know that you're pleasing somebody and serving the public too.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It really seems you are doing this, you love this, it's your passion, but you enjoy the customer service aspect of it. And that's fantastic because, that's your business. It's that building that customer loyalty. It's building that customer brand. So, we have been talking to the fabulous, the phenomenal Miss Lorna Ellis, who is the owner of For You Bridal, which is located in Worcester, Massachusetts. She's an entrepreneur. She worked for over 20 years in insurance, took the leap of faith in 2019, opened her own business, and then bam, the pandemic happened. And, she dropped some wisdom on us today, for those of you who are looking to be an entrepreneur, who was looking to go out on your own, about getting a framework, having a plan, diving into it wholeheartedly, having a support system, getting to know your neighborhood. So I'm not going to give you everything because I don't want you to read the back of the book. I want you to listen to the entire interview and listen to the pearls of wisdom that she dropped on you. And as we wrap this up, I have 2 final questions for her. What would you like, the listeners to know about Lorna and For You Bridal and Prom?
That it is a one-stop shop. You can get your bridal gown, your evening wear, your baby christening outfit for boys and girls, special occasion. I do have quinceanera dresses and for sale and for rent also, which is a limited rental because you cannot alter some of the stuff. And come in, browse around, check it out, you will feel welcome no matter what. If you just come in just to look, we welcome you. You will one day say, you know what, I see a dress that I like and I will come back.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And how do they contact you? How do they find For You Bridal and Prom?
For You Bridal is located at 269 Lincoln Street, Worcester, Mass. 01605. Telephone is 508-831-3508. You can find me on Facebook. You could find me on Instagram.
All right. Fantastic. All right. I want to thank you first and foremost for not only agreeing to being on the program, for this series. I've been trying to get you on for a while, just really needed to find a topic that aligned for both of us. So this is the perfect one. And you were phenomenal and exceptional guest. I enjoyed chatting with you and just learning so much from you. And I know that our listeners are going to benefit greatly from this for those of, them who's looking to become an entrepreneur and who's been doing it on the side and, want to do it full time. So thank you. I appreciate that. Truly, truly so much. You just sharing your wisdom and knowledge. So final question. Any regrets? Any
No
regrets?
regrets.
No regrets.
No regrets. No regrets. No regrets.
I love it. All right. There you have it, folks. Miss Lorna Ellis. Absolutely no regrets. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, my dear. Anytime.
As always, guys, this is Suzanne saying thank you. I am saying I am humbled by your continued support. I am humbled by you continuing to tune in every time there's a new episode. I appreciate it because I know that there's a lot of podcasts out there for you to choose from so that you continue to choose mine and listen to it. I appreciate it. So a couple of things. Want to keep reminding you guys that the Sit Down with Suzanne podcast is available. It is on my website at www.positivelysuzanne.com. It's also available in all the major podcasting directories. It's on Apple Music. It's on Amazon. It's on iHeart. It's on Google Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, and a plethora of others. So wherever you get your podcasts, I guarantee you the Sit Down with Suzanne podcast is on it. So I need you to do a couple of things for me. I need you to listen to the episode. I need you to subscribe. I need you to share the episode. I need you to write a review and spread the word. Spread the word that the Sit Down with Suzanne podcast is out there. It's happening and it's fun and fabulous. So I want you to share it because we're trying to help more people. So again, please go ahead and share, write a review. If you want to reach out to me, you can connect with me at Suzanne@positivelysuzanne.com. You could also follow me on social media. Instagram is my main jam. So go ahead and follow me on Instagram. I am just so appreciative of everything you do. Also, buy me a coffee should be right at the bottom of the episode. So you can go ahead and buy me a coffee. Just remember that every coffee that you buy goes towards purchasing equipment to upgrade the soul. So I could be bigger and better for you all. All right. So as always, I'm so appreciative of you guys. And until next time, this is Suzanne signing off.